The GTX 1080 Ti was every PC gamer's fantasy card. Everyone wanted one. We've been lucky enough to get our hands on the ROG Strix 1080 Ti. Now just look at this card. This is a chonky card. But what we actually want to know is, how does this card perform in 2024? Before we get going with the 1080 Ti, I just want to show you a quick size comparison, like an actual visual size comparison of the 1080 Ti compared to a more modern 3070 Ti. Now, obviously there are some differences in the PCB design, the size, and other things like that. Let's just grab the 3070. Now, hopefully this shows on camera. This is what they look like together. Now, that's kind of how it would look. And you can just, well, hopefully you can see that. It's not perfect, but you can kind of get the idea of the size difference between the two. Now, a couple of things stand out really, is that the PCB is different. Obviously the different length of the PCB, you can see this one ends there on the 3070 and it's slightly, well actually it's huge. It goes right to the end of the GPU on the 1080 Ti. But that didn't stop them making the cooler on the 3070 Ti about the same size. As you can see, it's only a little bit shorter. Still uses two 8-pin connectors there for the power on the 1080 Ti. So when we look at the output connections on these two cards, now obviously one is a gigabyte if you haven't already spotted that, and one is an Asus ROG Strix. So these are the only two that I've seen that still do dual HDMI connectors on there. So if you're looking for a graphics card that has dual HDMI connectors, because both, well, that monitor behind me there, directly behind me, is actually both DisplayPort and HDMI. But I like to connect it to a larger TV, which we'll show you in a bit as well. And also that monitor. So effectively, I'm using the 3070 Ti with 3 monitors, and actually the 1080 Ti as well. So it's really, really, really helpful that they still have multiple HDMI ports on a GPU. Now, I know HDMI is old, but it's still completely useful. It's still relevant. These graphics cards that don't have dual HDMI on them is just annoying to me. I just will not purchase them. But I totally get why people would want just DisplayPort or even USB-C. But for my preference, I love the graphics cards that have dual HDMI or even dual DisplayPort on them as well. Because you can get DisplayPort to HDMI adapters. I know that's a thing, but you know, it's just an extra thing to have to buy to plug into your graphics card. So it's nice to have it directly on the graphics card. The differences in these GPUs are not always apparent. And as you can see there, if you haven't noticed this, then I don't know where you've been for the last several years, but this one has SLI connector on it. The 1080 Ti has an SLI connector on it. SLI is not a thing anymore, but you can still use it if you've got graphics cards, obviously. Of course, you can still use it. It's just not supported anymore. It's not developed. Obviously, the 3070 Ti does not have that capability any longer because, like I said, it's gone. Comparisons aside, let's pop it in the machine and see how it goes. So the system we're using to test the 1080 Ti today is a Ryzen 7 5800X, a great value CPU, around 180 UK pounds in today's market. You might find it a little bit less if you're buying secondhand, but it's a great value CPU for that price. If you can stretch it, then obviously go for the 5800X 3D because it is a much better CPU. But for most people, the 5800X is going to be just fine. We've also got 48 gig of Crucial Ballistics Max RAM. The reason I've got 48 gig in there because obviously this is my main rig. I use it for editing the videos that you're watching right now. So that's why I've got that in there. If I could bung it up to 64, I would, but they don't do Ballistics Max RAM anymore. So that's what we've got. So the first game we're going to be showing you is Death Stranding. Now this is one that I've been recently streaming over on Twitch. So if you haven't already followed me over there, go and watch me on Twitch. I stream fairly regularly. I'm trying to get back into streaming now. But this is the game that I'm currently playing on Twitch. But this is the game we're also going to be starting with on today's video. Now going through the settings on screen now, you can see we're running in full screen mode, 16:9. The resolution is set to 1440p. Now you may think that's probably going to be pushing it for a 2017 graphics card, but you'll see in a moment. VSync is off because we want to see all the FUPs that you can get. Maximum frame rate is set to the maximum that the engine can support, is 240, and you can see in the menus we're currently getting 240. Graphics quality is set to custom. Now I've already gone through these to try and make it the best I can for this system. We're on very high. We're using 4 gig at the moment out of the 11 or 10.1 gig as it's shown in the game of the GDDR5X RAM, which this graphics card has on it. High resolution, everything is on. TAA is set to, well, it's actually not able to set that. We've got fidelity effects CAS set to on, and we've got the sharpness set to 50, which we always put to 50 because it's kind of a midway point. We've got depth of field on. Motion blur we've got turned off because no game should ever have motion blur on PC. Ever. So we've got that off, and that is basically the settings we are at the moment. So let's just go into the game and see what it looks like. Just while we're waiting for the game to load, because it does take a little while, especially on the first load, it does take a while. We've got nothing changed on the MSI Afterburner there. You can see everything is set to default. In fact, I'm going to click the reset button now just so you can see that I'm clicking the reset button. We're not boosting or changing the power limit on anything, although we've got 120%, so 20% increase in the power limit available to us, but we're not going to use that. We're going to use it as stock. The fan is set to whatever the card was defaulted to in the firmware. So nothing is going to be changed whatsoever. We're leaving that as it is. And you can see the RAM usage on the GPU is actually creeping up very slowly, and the game is ready. So let's get into the game. Okay, so here we are in Death Stranding, and as you can see, it's a huge open world game. Now, hopefully the frames per second translates. Obviously, we're getting higher than 60 FPS, which this video is recorded in. So you might see some stuttering and things like that just because there's more frames than what's available in this video, so that it doesn't translate very well. And I do not want to restrict the game. I want you to see what it can actually do. Now, don't forget, this is at 1440p, and as we pan around, we're not moving very quickly at the minute, it looks amazing. 1440p, Death Stranding, on a 1080 Ti, and I'm about to fall over by the looks of it. 115 or over 100 FPS there, that's our average FPS using DirectX 12. 95%, oh, went up there. So yeah, above high 90s in the percentage that is being used on the GPU, and we're only using, out of the 11 gig available, I'd imagine that's because we're at 1440p. Let's just stop there a moment. Just under 5 gig of RAM available, used on the GPU, and we are maxed out on the megahertz there. And we are, 98% on the GPU usage right now, and only at 69 degrees C. These things do actually run really, really cool. That's 69 degrees is quite warm, obviously, but those fans are really doing their job. They're doing a really good job, even after all this time. They're amazing. Only using 1.043 volts there, and 243 thereabouts, fluctuating quite a bit, above 240 watts on the GPU, which is currently 87% of what is available power-wise for this GPU, or what it can draw at its current setting that we've got set to 100% in MSI Afterburner. Oh, my containers are getting damaged. So what we're going to do, we're not going to, because the next mission that I'm doing in this game is actually quite tricky and I keep dying, so I am just going to walk back down here, just so you can see it moving around. Now, hopefully, as I said, the frames translate very well on the recording that we're doing, but this is such an open world game. It's such a good game to test with this GPU. Admittedly, there's not a lot of stuff going on at the minute, but that aside, it just looks really, really good. It's a game that I always wanted to play, but I never really got into until just recently, like I just said, on Twitch. So if you want to see more gameplay of this, then yeah, follow us over on Twitch. WND Tech, of course, and next time we stream, we hope to see you there. Over 100 FPS, still creeping up to 120 as we move around into different areas, and just amazing scenery to play. Now, it's not all open world. Sometimes you're in buildings and things like that, and just the fact that this card, this 2017 card, can play a fairly modern game such as Death Stranding at 1440p at over 100 FPS is just outstanding to me, just absolutely outstanding. Now, we will try this in 4K. I don't know really what to expect at 4K, but we're going to try it in 4K, so let's go and do that now. Okay, so as promised, we're now showing 4K footage of Death Stranding, and you can see, well, you may not see because it's quite small now, the text is a bit small because we're at 4K obviously, but on the screen capture you'll see it, so let's show that now. So you can see there that we're getting under 50 FPS average frame rate there, and our GPU utilization is whacked up to a full 99%. Not 100%, 99%. The GPU temperature has, of course, gone up because we've been running it a little while now, but it's only gone up, what, 2 degrees, I think, since we started playing this. And the amount of RAM being used on the screen now is just under 7 gig of total RAM of what's available on this 11 gig graphics card. As you can see, as Will is walking around, even at 50 or nearly 60 FPS we're at now, if you just pan around a bit, Will, you can see that it's still really, really smooth. Now, 4K in this game doesn't look that much different than 1440p, to be honest with you, but I'm sure we can tweak some settings. Now, one thing I have done is I've turned off fidelity effects, super resolution, so there's no upscaling or anything like that involved, so we're getting the true FPS that this card can offer, which is good to see. It still pumps out between 50 and 60 FPS in Death Stranding. It's just absolutely amazing. The wattage for the GPU hasn't really changed. We're still at around 275 there. I think that's about what it was a moment ago. Our power usage, as you can see there on the right-hand side, is also higher than it was a moment ago. I think we were getting about 75% of our available power for this GPU. It's now gone up to about 99, and indeed, as you can see there, it's now going up to 104, I think I saw just there. So it's got extra bandwidth available, and not extra bandwidth, but extra power available, so it knows that it can push it a little bit higher. But that's nothing that I've changed. As you saw earlier, we've got everything set to the default, so nothing, it's not us doing it, it's just the GPU doing its boost. As you can see there, it looks amazing at 4K. It's pretty cool. I'm really impressed that this card can still do, or even indeed do 4K, because when this card came out, 4K was that unreachable target that you really wanted to try and get that nice crisp graphics on screen. And as I said a moment ago, it doesn't really look any different to 1440p in my eyes, but you know, I wear glasses, so maybe I just can't see it and you guys can. But gameplay wise, I could play this at 4K all day. Okay, moving on to Shadow of the Tomb Raider now. As you can see, at 4K, it's really pushing it with this game. We're getting 5 FPS, maxed out 100% on the GPU. CPU is literally sat there going, well, what are we doing? We doing something today or what? And then the GPU is actually using almost all of its RAM, 10.6 gig of its available RAM of the GDDR5X RAM that it's got. And obviously the power usage is not maxed out either. 230 watts on this GPU at 4K. Got up to about 20 FPS, but even that is just not playable. So what we're going to do, we're going to go in and enable fidelity effects, super resolution, and just see what kind of improvement we can get at 4K. Okay, so we've now enabled oh, for God's sake, you can't say. Okay, so we've enabled fidelity effects super resolution, and it made literally no difference whatsoever. So what we've actually gone and done is reduce the settings, the general settings, down to high now. We're in the high preset on the default in-game graphical settings there. And it's made a huge difference. We're now back up to our above 50 FPS there, and it's running really, really well. It looks super sharp as well with that fidelity effects enabled.
I don't understand.
And completely playable. Again, 99% on the GPU, only using a small amount of RAM there, 9 gig, but on an 11 gig card, that's literally nothing. So as you can see there, we've changed the preset graphic settings to the highest available now. Now we're going to turn motion blur off because we always turn motion blur off. So now that it will show as custom. But if we go back into the game now, you can see that we've dropped about 10 FPS, I reckon, in this particular area here. Now we're just walking around and not really doing much. The game is completed, so there's not really much to do in this, but we can still walk around and show you what it looks like. Now we've still got fidelity effects super resolution on, and you can see that's, well, you can hopefully see that it looks a lot clearer with that on, to be honest with you. So we're going to leave that on, as it didn't make any difference to the FPS whatsoever. I think it's okay at this frame rate. I probably would prefer it at a higher frame rate, so I may want to knock it down. I can't really see much difference between this other than the frame rate, you know, graphically than the high setting that we were just on. So I'd probably actually knock it down to high. That being said, I think it looks stunning in this particular area anyway. Lots of stuff going on around you. I think it looks amazing, and we're getting just under 50 FPS. So what we're going to do now, we're just going to see what it looks like on the worst setting that is available in game. We're going to whack it down to low. I think that's the lowest we can go. And we've got motion blur on still, but that's fine. This is the lowest setting, and it's whacked us up to a maximum, or not a maximum, but a staggering 64 FPS there. As you can see, as we're moving along, you can see some of the rocks and steps and things kind of drawing or redrawing as you get close there. If you notice that effect, see that wall there? It changes as you get closer to it. If you just move away from the wall a moment, keeping the wall in view, and it will. If we move away from the wall, you'll see it just, yeah, look at that, that's pretty bad. So that's on low setting, but we didn't get that at all on high or anything like that. So that would be really not great, not a great experience. For minimal FPS increase. So I would definitely have this game at 4K on high all day long, no problem. Really impressed, actually. We're moving on to something that we haven't really looked at before. It's something that Will likes to play, so we're going to just try it on the GTX 1080 Ti. This game has a humongous amount of mods installed for it that Will, he's played this for hours. It's Kerbal Space Program, and well, we're just going to see how it looks in 4K. In total, this game has about 70 mods installed for it, which is not that high compared to some that I've seen, but it is what it is. It's what we're loading this game, which is why it takes so long, why you've got this stupendously long load bar at the bottom of the screen. But we're going to get there, and we're going to show you how this game performs. Currently, it's filling up the GPU RAM with all its mods, and system RAM, you can see, counting up there very slowly. Okay, here we are, Kerbal Space Program. This is the first one, not the second one. Let's just see. What we're basically trying to do is load up this really complex ship that we can launch, or that Will can launch into space, but we're having some issues with the mods, so hopefully we can load that up now and show you what it looks like. Okay, so here we are at the Kerbal Space Center, and we've loaded in a modded SLS space rocket, which has the first stage and the second stages on the side there. No, I've got that wrong way around, haven't I? First stage is the main bit, isn't it? Okay, so loading in, we have the SLS rocket there with its side boosters and its orange, because NASA likes orange, I don't know why, heat shield or something or other. Looking around the Kerbal Space Center there, as you can see, we can just move that around there. Yeah, there we go, we're getting about high 40s, mid 50s there. So let's get this thing up in the air and see what it's like. I can imagine that this thing is going to increase in FPS as we go higher. So launch when ready. Oh look, we've even got some Kerbins in there. They're Kerbals. They're not Kerbins. Did I say it wrong? Anyway, here we go, looking down at the launch pad. We've got the launch pad fading away into the distance as we're increasing our speed and our altitude. Currently at 45 FPS, using 10 gig of RAM, 99% GPU utilization on this one, and everything else is the same as pretty much every other game, really. Although, actually in this one, I've just noticed the power usage is going up to about, I saw 108% on the power usage there. If you can look down a minute, we'll just see if that is what's causing that to increase in power. No, it's actually gone down, so we're currently 82, 85. It's going up so quick, I can't keep up with it. 90,000 meters high there. So we're not far into the outer atmosphere now. There we go, 150,000 meters now, 160,000 now. That's how quick it goes up once it gets out into the atmosphere, upper atmosphere, and then into space. Oh, okay, was that supposed to happen? They just literally, oh wow, look at them flip. They're flipping like crazy. I don't think you cut the engines first. Oh well, anyway, they're going back down to Earth. Hopefully they don't hit anyone's house or land in someone's garden, but the rocket is continuing its journey into space. We're up into the edge of the atmosphere now, nearly into space. 300 meters up now. And we're getting that angle of attack. I have no idea what I'm saying, but it sounds cool in my head, so that's what I'm going to go with. Anyway, we're getting a stable 40 plus FPS in this game, which is, I would say is that acceptable for this type of game? Not really.
To make split-second decisions, you need a bit more time.
But as you go up into space, it's going up anyway, isn't it? Yeah, so actually, as I said earlier, it's increasing in FPS as we're going higher, obviously, because there's less to load on the ground. And there's less to show in space anyway. So, oh, look at that. There's a Kerbal doing his thing. He's looking bloody scared. Is that one Kerbal or two? Can I see through the... No, it's just a shadow. Anyway, he's looking out the window going, what the hell am I doing here? When are we going back to Earth? Sorry, Kerbal. Kerbin. It's not called Earth in this game. It's called Kerbin. For some reason. Maybe Earth is trademarked. I don't know. Is it trademarked? Anyway, we're up into space now, I believe, or we're just verging on the edge of space there. So let's cut the engines. Okay, we're not going to cut the engines. We haven't quite reached apogee yet. I don't quite know what he's going for here, but it looks like we're not quite there yet. I don't know whether we're going to end up down and crash somewhere. Hopefully not, because that would be bad. We don't want those poor... we don't want the poor Kerbins to... okay, we've aborted the mission, everyone. We are going back down to the planet Kerbin, and it looks like we're going to land in the Alps somewhere, or somewhere snowy. Where actually is that? Who knows? It's not a real place. Anyway, let's just hope we survive. Let's have an inside view of how the Kerbins are doing. And they're having a whale of a time. Look at them go. I can't believe how amazing. They just find this super exciting. How many Kerbins are there in there? 3 Kerbins. Where are they sat? Show me where they're sat. Let's have a look. Oh, hello. There we go. Hello, Kerbins. All right. Doing great. I can only see 2. There's definitely not 3. Where's the other one? Oh, has it just exploded inside?
No.
Is it just... That would be bad. Oh, there they are. Oh, my God, look at that face. Okay, they're having a whale. Oh, there he is underneath. Well, let's hope no one farts, because that would be really, really awkward. But nevertheless, they're coming back down to Earth now. What's their altitude? 340,000 feet now, as we're descending quite rapidly at 1,500 meters per second and slowing down now. Heat shield is doing its job. Let's just hope it does do its job and doesn't burn up. Oh, that's it. No, the fire's back. So where are we going? Where are we landing? Who knows? Nobody knows. But they're having a whale of a time, and that's all that matters. 220,000 feet now. They're a bit confused. They're not really sure what's going on right now. They're not really sure what's going on. I don't think I'm really sure what's going on in this game. But as you can see, as we're descending, or plummeting, I should say, back down to Earth, we're getting a nice 60, well, it's all over the place there, 30 FPS as we're looking at this town. Oh, it looks like we're going to land in the city. That's probably not a great place to land, but let's hope we can land somewhere safe. Nice view of the moon. Oh, it looks like we're spinning out of control. We're upside down. No, what's going on? What the heck is going... What is going... Don't know what's going on right now. Okay, so that's the moon. The other one was the sun that we saw just a moment ago. Okay, well, let's not miss the landing if we actually want to see that. And yeah, there we go. We're going to land in someone's garden by the look of it. And as we're coming down, this game's not known for high detail scenery on the ground. Don't forget, this isn't Flight Sim. This is Kerbal Space Program. And we might even land on someone's tree in the garden. It looks like we're in a forest, actually, so we might be all right. Nice, safe place to land, I think. Although it might be a built-up area. Who knows? The textures aren't that great in this game. 50 FPS and 10 gig of RAM with 99% utilization. Trying to keep this as sensible as we can with the... What the heck is he doing? I don't know what he's doing right now. But anyway, we're going to do a nice smooth landing. He's just a bit unsure about what the hell is going on right now and who's controlling the craft in the first place. Oh, look how slow we're going. 7.9 meters per second. In a GTX 1080 Ti. Who'd have thought that you could fly a spaceship with a 1080 Ti? But apparently you can. And we're spinning out of control. Let's have an inside view as we touch down. Oof. Inside view, let's just see how they're coping with this. Oh, they've stopped. Oh no, they're still going. Oh, and they've reached the point of no return. So there we go. They're all happy. They've made it up into space and back down with a GTX 1080 Ti. Who'd have thought that you could take a GTX 1080 Ti to space, but they've done it. There you go. Kerbal Space Program works a treat. Okay, here we are in Battlefield 5 now. Now, I know this is an older game. We're not using Battlefield 2142 because, quite honestly, we just don't like it. So we're doing Battlefield 5 because it's quite a cool game. And it's got Wake Island on it, of course. So here we are with the graphics settings set to high. Now, everything else is set to default other than motion blur. We've turned that off, obviously. So if we can get into the game and we'll see what this is like at 4K on a 1080 Ti. Okay, here we are into the okay. Was dead. But anyway, we're in the battle and we're getting 40, low 40s there at 4K set to high. Now we're using a little bit more CPU in this game because obviously it needs a little bit more CPU power than most other games that we've tried so far. Maxed out on this GPU as we would expect it to be, and only using about 8 gig of RAM, even though it's got 11 gig available. It's only using just over 8. So in a game like this, you really want high FPS so you can get accurate shots, accurate flick shots and all that kind of stuff if you can do that. I cannot do that because I'm just pants at these type of games, but I love playing them anyway. Anyway, we went down to about 36 there in the FPS, average FPS. So those 1% lows are probably much lower than that. But actually looking at it on a 4K display, I guess maybe I'm just used to seeing it at not high frame rates. I don't play at 4K anyway, I play at 1440p, and obviously it's a lot smoother than this, so we're down to 27 FPS there. Definitely want higher frame rates in this game. It's, yeah, he's about to get sniped. Zooming in like that, we're down to 23, low 20s there. Is he gonna pop his head out again? Nope, no, there he is. Oh, which makes it extremely difficult to aim and fire and get an accurate shot when you're that low on frame rate. So, as you can see there, Will is missing all his shots. To your left, Will. I saw a guy.
Did you not see that?
No, I didn't see that.
I didn't kill someone with a smoke grenade.
Oh, how do you do that?
I didn't.
How do you even get someone with a smoke grenade? I don't know. Anyway, yeah, not very good frame rate. So we're going to go in and change the settings down to the next setting down, which I guess is medium. So we are now down to the medium setting. As you saw, we just changed that. And to be honest with you, at 4K resolution, we're not really noticing much different, to be honest. We're still, yeah, frame rates are about the same. Does it feel smoother to you? I mean, it might, although the frame rates are, like I said, no different. It does feel a little bit smoother for me visually than it was a moment ago, even though the frame rates are lower. Although we're getting nearly mid-50s there now on the frame rate. Oh, you got a guy down there. Do you want to revive him? Literally an enemy there, and you just let him go. Oh, you got him? Oh, well done. Okay, fair enough. Oh, there's another guy down. God.
It's the same guy.
Same. That would be me playing the game, honestly. That would just be me. Every 2 seconds, I'd be going, help! Yeah, so 50 FPS, we're getting there. 10% or thereabouts on the CPU on the Ryzen 5800X there, and pretty much maxed out on the GPU. Now, we could go lower on the settings, but there's not really much point. Obviously, the FPS is going to go up. Normally it's about 10 FPS increments in up or down depending on your default.
Come on now.
I swear I just looked at that and it looked like Tom Cruise, but maybe that's just me.
I just realised the thing I'm firing isn't a smoke grenade, it's just a normal grenade.
Anyway, that aside, this game is okay. It's running alright. It's maxed out on the GPU. That's crazy. Maxed out on the GPU and barely using the CPU at all in this system. Oh, we're moving now. Yeah, so we're going to get, oh, holy moly, we're going to get a bit of tank action here before we die, hopefully. And just lots of fire explosions and stuff like that, because, you know, Battlefield 5, crazy shenanigans. But holding stable with that around 50 FPS at medium settings, pretty good. Obviously, we really want to be near 60 or higher if possible, but obviously we can knock down the resolution to 1440p if we wanted to, and that would help that a little bit as well. But all that aside, I actually think that the 1080 Ti is coping with this game pretty well. Maybe the player is not coping very well, but the GPU is coping really, really well. We hit 60 there as you're dead. Well, that's cool. Anyway, that's Battlefield 5 with the GTX 1080 Ti. Well, there we go. That is a handful selection of games that we just chucked at the 1080 Ti. And I think even at 4K, it coped really, really well. 4K wasn't really initially the premise of this video, but it turned out that it just was fine. It was okay. It worked really well. And I'm really, really surprised that a 6-year-old card, a 1080 Ti, a 6-year-old 1080 Ti, has still got it today and can still pump out 4K resolution graphics. Not at high frame rates, but at acceptable, what I would consider acceptable. You guys may not consider it acceptable, and that's perfectly fine with 120 Hz monitors, 144 Hz monitors. You wanna push those FPS. I get it. But for those of us that have been in the gaming arena for a very long time, playing it on those kind of frame rates is actually fine. It's actually okay. There's nothing wrong with playing it with those frame rates. And I think I would have a whale of a time with this graphics card. If you liked this kind of content, then get subscribed, click that subscribe button, hit that like button and the notification button so you get notified when we release videos like this one. And if you want to see more content, then just watch more content because all our videos are really cool.